felt like I wasn't a good mom, a good partner. I had issues of frustration with not being good enough. And I actually had started having depression and suicidal ideation.
All right, welcome to another episode of Living Boldly with Purpose. I am Dr. B. I am your host, and just ready for another just incredible episode that we're going to have today. And so I have Kelly on today, and we were able to just spend some time talking about the show and kind of talking about purpose and things that you should do. She is just retired, which, from a stressful career. And hopefully when we have her story, we'll have her talk about that a little bit. But then to think, if after you work somewhere for so long, you've been somewhere, and you really now get to work on your purpose, and you get to work on why you think God or you believe you were put on this planet to do. And there's just something special about living in that space where it just truly makes a difference in how you get up in the morning, how you go to bed at night, the things that you talk about, dream about, internalize, the way you interact with your friends. It is just so neat to see somebody that may have just kind of, I don't know if you guys have ever been around people who just kind of have that blank stare of existence, as they get up every morning. And I'm not telling Kelly that you had that because I didn't know you when you were still working at your job. But I can tell you, just seeing your smile today, just hearing your voice, hearing your countenance, hearing, what I feel is just something in your voice that says, I'm excited about life. I'm excited about whatever it is that I'm going to do. And I can't wait for it to happen. And when we get around folks that aren't living in purpose, and we get around folks that are just kind of going through those steps, you can really tell it. You can just by, the conversations and, the things that they talk about and the things that they try to avoid talking about. So I'm excited today. I'm excited about hearing about purpose. I'm excited about hearing about what Kelly gets to do, and that we get to be part of her journey. And so as you listen to this, and this is your first podcast that you've heard from me doing, and Living Boldly with Purpose, I would encourage you, if this is something that's going to hit you, to go ahead and subscribe. But on the other side of it, if this is one of those things, and Kelly, I had to learn this because they say I was a special ed kid, and I went through special ed, but I don't know if special ed gets to identify with my thought process on watching podcasts and listen to podcasts and going, because I would listen to them. I'm trying to write down and take notes, and the people are talking too fast, and I can't comprehend it all. And I'm like, oh, it's recorded. I just have to push the pause button. So I can blame that on being special ed, but it's not really an excuse, right? It dawned on me, wait a minute. I can rewind, I can record, I can watch it again. I don't have to write down every single thing right this second. I can even put it on half speed or double speed. There's all these options that we have. I think it may have come from when I used to do radio. And once you did radio and it was live, there was no going back. I mean, they would record shows and they might air them, a month later or something like that. But I think that my mind was kind of stuck on that. And this podcast medium is so much different and so much better, and it's just, I can soak it in. And so thank you for being on today. Thank you for taking time out of your life and your busy schedule and the things that you do on a daily basis to spend time on the show with us. And so as I do all our guests, I'm going to just ask you to tell your story. And then we have maybe some questions that we'll chop up after that. But the floor is yours. Thank you again for being part of it.
Well, thank you for the invite, Brian. I appreciate getting a chance to speak to your listeners. So, my story starts with the thunderous clap of metal shattering glass everywhere, people coming out of their homes to see what's going on, and the sounds of sirens in the distance approaching quickly. I was driving home one evening on my way from work and I was on a rural road when another driver pulled out in front of me, and I was unable to stop in time before hitting them. And I T-boned the car. And um, my car was totaled, and their car was totaled. But I thought with all of that, I would just shake it off and go back to my life and get back to work and being a mom and doing my hobbies, which at the time was studying martial arts. And I went to work the next day even. I asked a friend, would you drive me to work because my car's totaled? And my very supportive friend said, sure. We went to work. We were meeting with other nurses and other nurse practitioners. And at the time, I was a cardiology nurse practitioner. And the nurses noticed something different. They noticed that I was mixing up my words, my behavior was different, and they said that they insisted that I make sure to see my general practitioner the next day, and I did. And when I saw my doctor, she said, "Oh, you have a concussion, and I'll take you off of work for 2 weeks." And then I was sent on my way. And I thought, okay, I'll rest for 2 weeks, and then I'll try it again. I'll get back to life, and went back to work. Did it just pushed and pushed and pushed. Until one day I was driving home and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Ooh.
And fortunately, the car bouncing off the road woke me in time to slam on the brakes and avoid hitting a tree. So, this is going to kind of give you a picture of how well my brain was working. So, instead of calling my doctor and saying, "Hey, I fell asleep at the wheel," I said, "Oh, you know what? I'll keep going and I'll just take a nap in between work and home in my car." I'm not recommending that to anyone that's listening right now. That's not safe. But that's the way I was thinking. And so I did so. And then, fortunately, shortly after, I had a lunch meeting with a colleague. She was a neurology nurse practitioner at the time and was curious about my recovery. And I told her, "Oh, I still have these symptoms, this and that. And I fell asleep at the wheel, but it's okay because now I just stop and take a nap in between work and home." And she's like, no, that is not okay." And so she guided me to see a physical medicine and rehab doctor, which is also, they have in the past been known as physiatrists. They are doctors that specialize in brain injuries and spinal injuries. And she said, to get a brain scan. I hadn't had any referrals to any specialist or had a brain scan prior to this. And once I got in and saw the physical medicine rehab doctor, she recognized right away that I had a significant brain injury. Not significant, I should say. It was considered mild to moderate traumatic brain injury. And she took me off work for 3 months and then sent me off to see the right people to help with my recovery. She sent me a speech therapist because I was having difficulty with speech, memory, cognitive functioning, and then a neurotherapist because I was having difficulty with balance, walking, and eye tracking things with my eyes. And since then, I just got onto the right road to recovery, met the right specialists. They referred me to books that led me to websites and more information and more specialists. And it really saved my life because I think that if I hadn't had that intervention of that friend, that my life would have spiraled out of control like it has for other traumatic brain injury survivors.
And so, man, this is a great story. I mean, that you were able to overcome. And so, did you end up going after you went through the 3 months and go back just into the normal life, or has there still been some, I guess, residual effects? Have you had to change your life anyway as a result of what happened here?
Great question, Brian. So, yes, so 2 weeks before I was to go back to work, I was really super nervous about what did my brain need for support to perform well at work. And I had no idea. So I spent that 2 weeks reading all my recovery books, which I at the time could only had a reading tolerance of about 10 minutes to be able to remember what I read and to not get headaches or dizziness at the time. And when I decided to write my book at the encouragement of another supportive friend, I decided that my book wouldn't be like a memoir or talk about my recovery. It would be a book to help people with concussions get back to work while their brain healed. Because at the time, I was the income earner for my family and the benefit earner, so there was no option to not work and be off and take time to recover. So that's kind of why I wrote my book. That was my motivation. I didn't want anybody to go through what I did. But with that said, I spent many years afterwards making mistakes, trying this and that, and then compiled a bag of tricks that worked for me. And I try to share those in my content when I create on my YouTube channel and in my book and in my Substack that I write for, so that other people, when they are looking to return to work, they don't have to look at multiple resources. I really wanted them to have that one resource to get them started, to support them, and then they could branch off of those platforms and find the tools and strategies that would help support them continue to work and study as their brain healed, because everyone's brain injury is different. Your recovery will be different as your personality, and your symptoms will be unique. And what they say in the industry of brain injuries is once you've seen one brain injury, you've seen one brain
An
injury.
injury. I love it. I love it.
So everyone is different and will need different things to help them recover. So just kind of keep that in mind if you're a listener and you know someone who's had a concussion or a traumatic brain injury, that they're not going to just see one person, one specialist, and they're going to help them get better. It's going to be a multiple team of people who will make up the pieces of the puzzle of getting that person back to feeling better.
I really want to. One of the things that I always talk about in at least in this show is identity and the identity that we hold for ourselves. And in your situation, I think there's several identities that you had to reckon with, right? It's you're the mom, that now has a brain injury. That is, I still have to be the mom, right? My kids need me. I got to make sure I'm taking care of them. So I want you to kind of talk to us through that a little bit, and then the process of, okay, by identity of I'm the breadwinner, I'm the person who has to make sure that the household is okay, and I still have a brain injury, and I'm still trying to reconcile that. And now I want to do something else. I want to help other people and serve other people and teach other people. Now I have to have the ability, and maybe you can talk through that as well as what it was like what may it have been like to write a book when everything before you had an accident, and now whether there's a little bit of memory loss or just the belief that there is, and all the things I'm going through, like what was your process of being this author that now is trying to write a book with a brain injury? And I don't want to say your identity is the lady with the brain injury, but I want to kind of understand this whole process that you went through.
Okay, so you asked me three
Three
questions.
questions.
I might forget the last one, but I will try.
I will remind you because I wrote them down.
So being a mom with a brain injury, I decided that I would be honest and let my kids know what had happened. And so whenever they had questions or something came up, like I would forget something that they'd said or something that happened, that I would say, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't remember that because remember, mom has her concussion. And so I think that really helped with the kids coping with what was going on because in order for me to go to work each day, I was working 40 plus hours a week plus an hour one way commute. I had to come home after work, take a 2 hour nap, wake up, get ready for the next day, and then go back to sleep and sleep the whole night until my alarm went off. And then on the weekends, I would sleep 14 to 16 hours a day plus a 2 hour nap. And that was pretty consistent up for the first 2 years. And so I missed out on a lot with my children and I wasn't available. And my husband had to quit his job. He was a martial arts instructor at the time. So he could take over full time the household and child rearing duties as I healed. So that was tough. Um, but I think with my honesty and just continued communication, like how my brain was doing. Like some earlier in my recovery, I'd wake up and my kids would ask me, "Hey, mom, is today a good brain day or a bad brain day?" And that was really helpful so that they would know, okay, mom's ready for the day or mom needs to rest and not push herself too hard. So we had conversations like that too, which were really helpful. And
Was there any guilt in there that you weren't the mom that you were before the accident, or that you couldn't do maybe some of the things like you talked about sleeping all the time and being there all the time? Did that hurt you? I mean, is that like, or you just knew, okay, I have this, like there's nothing I can do about it, or did you have to go through some of those emotions of, I wish I could be the mom that I was?
Yeah, I did. I felt like I wasn't a good mom, a good partner.
Mhm.
I had issues of frustration with not being good enough. And I actually had started having depression and suicidal ideation.
Oh
Like,
wow. Okay.
I was thinking my family would be better if I wasn't around anymore. And fortunately, though, I recognized what was going on and got talk therapy and saw counselors. I learned about mindfulness. I knew I continued to try and spend time outside and walk and journal and things to support my mental health. But yeah, it got really bad, where I would have like episodes of road rage. I would speed dangerously on the road, not caring if my car crashed. So yeah, it was real. It was tough. It was a really rough time.
One of the things that just is so neat to me is we always talk about resources that are available. And so many people come up with reasons not to use the resources because they're in their own head, they're in their own world, they're trying to figure out, okay, I don't really need it, but you used them. And you're like, oh yeah, these. So you felt like they worked and they, because you said, yeah, you wouldn't be without what, the support you had. It's so cool to see somebody who said, you know what, I'm recognizing these things. I need help. I'm willing to go for it. What would you say to the person who was watching this and going, I'm not there yet. I don't want to use the resources. I can do this on my own.
Well, I recommend for my brain injury patients is and for anybody actually, this is for anybody, the importance of journaling. Journaling helps you get out of your head. And after a brain injury, I had a very hard time getting out of my head. I felt very self-centered. My thoughts were on myself, and I felt like most of the time, like early in my recovery, like the first 3 years, I was constantly crawling out of my brain to be present in the moment and to be engaged with the people around me. And my brain just kept, wanting to suck me in. And my journal allowed me to get the thoughts that were bothering me out onto paper, which makes them less scary. And it let me complain without having to burn any friends or family out on my complaints, but it gave me insight to what was going on, and then from that, I would think of something that would support to kind of fix the issue. Okay, so like one day I snapped at a coworker who came up to my desk to ask to give me some more work actually, and and I didn't like that. I don't like being that person. So I went home and I thought about it, and I realized, oh, let's see, there was a lot of noise. There was I was tired, and excuse me, and it was um, getting close to lunch. So I was hungry. And so the next time I wrote down, I will make sure that I use my noise canceling headphones more to block out the noise. I will use my to-do list to keep my focus on what needs to be done and not get distracted. And I will remember when someone comes up to talk to me about something to take a deep breath, let go of what I was doing, and put my entire focus on them. And then I would write it down, I would put it in my work journal to remember I was going to use that technique. And I would remind myself I'm going to do that. And then when it happened, I practiced it and I just kept practicing it until it was a habit.
I love that. I mean, you actually gave yourself instructions to help you through the process, which is so neat. That you said journaling is so important. And I go back to my excuses of like I didn't know how to pause and stuff. But one of the things I realized about journaling, because I'm such an auditory person, and everybody told me my journal had to be this book that I would write in. And I'm like, but I can't read my writing, especially when it's coming out of my mind so fast. And I realized that when I wrote my book, I literally talked to the computer. And so the aha moment was, wait a minute, I can journal just like so I can literally speak to Google Talk or whatever. It's free and all the words come out and they're spelled right. And then I can, even if I want to, I can throw it into Chat GPT and format it in a way that I can read it later if I want to. But it just was so releasing to me because the journaling part is what's important. It's not how you put it down on paper. And I think there's so many people who don't journal because of the tediousness that they believe that journaling does. And then what I'm hearing you saying is journaling is one of the main things that allowed me to recover. And I had a brain injury, and most of you don't. And so journaling could even help you even more than that. So thank you for sharing that. And as we're walking through this thing. And so now back to my second question. You're right. We're back to identity, and the identity that you now have to show up at work, and the identity that you have to have that's different. Now, are you like in a spot where you're recalling your identity from this is who I was, and then trying to compare it? Did you jump into that comparison trap that so many of us do with other people, but I can imagine with yourself, that's even a harder comparison trap?
Yeah, so after a brain injury, your personality can change.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I felt like I was living with a stranger in my head. I'd look at the mirror, I'd see myself, but I didn't know who that person was. And so one day, about a year into my recovery, I sat down on my deck, pulled out my journal again. I drew a line down the middle, and on the left side, I wrote all the things that I was passionate about and all the goals I had prior to my car accident. And then on the other side, I wrote all the things I'd gained from my car accident and my new passions and my new goals. And I decided when compared the two, I hadn't lost that much, maybe 80% of the stuff I was okay to let go, and 20% I held on a little bit with, and that I thought told myself that's okay. But I really liked the person I was becoming because before I was so goal driven, go, 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 get this, make this goal, go on this trip, do this, do that. And then after my car accident, I really slowed down and became more of a tortoise and more intentional in the decisions I made in my life, making sure that they lined up with my values before making the decision. I was more patient, compassionate, empathetic, and understanding, enjoying the moment, staying home more, enjoying my home, more mindful of time with my family and friends. And I like that person that I had become. But it did take me a while to get to know that person. Um, you do, after a brain injury, if you're looking at not getting back to your old self soon, you need to be able to let go of your old self before you can get to know your new self and embrace them. And I don't mean like get over your head injury or let go and forget that old person. I mean, take it with you because that's still a part of you
Mhm.
and blend it with the new person that you're becoming.
So that's so cool that you're able to be able to see that transformation as you move through. So now you decide, okay, I want to serve others. I want to have people um, that are going through what I went through. I want to make sure I give them a platform to be able to do it easier than I did or do it in a different way. And so now your identity, because I don't, did you write any book before you had your brain injury? Were you an
No,
author? Okay, so I wanted to
I
make
couldn't.
sure, like, no,
Oh,
you became an author. You're like, no, I wrote 7 books and nobody read
no.
it. Okay, so I mean, so now you decide, okay, I want to write. I want to be an author. Was intrepidation in those types of things as you're writing, like, am I good enough to be able to write? Will I be able to get this down on paper? What did that identity look like that allowed you to become the person that not only started a book but finished and published
Well, I decided to write my book 5 years after the after my car accident.
it? Mm-hmm.
And I was lucky to discover a self-publishing company called Book Launchers.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I needed help writing because the only writing I was doing was charts, charting, writing in charts, and
Yeah.
that stuff is boring. I didn't want my book to be boring. So I found them, and they had writing coaches and editors and marketing people, and it was a tremendous learning curve. But I embraced it because learning something new I knew would help connect more connections in my brain that had been lost after the brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I embraced it like I did when I was a white belt in karate. I'm new at this. I'm here to learn, and I did, and I got the support of the book launcher staff, and I created the book that I wanted, and I'm really proud of it. And by the reviews that I've gotten, I can see that I nailed it. And I didn't do it on my own though. It was because of the book launchers and their writing coaches and staff. So um, yeah, that was a wonderful journey, and I'm glad I jumped off that uh, cliff and took the risk.
So, oh man, because so many people without brain injuries start books and never finish them and don't go through the process. And, and you were able to do it in an amazing way. You've talked about martial arts for a few times, and that's, your husband had a business as an instructor. You went through the process, and it's a big part of your life. How did that? Because when I think of martial arts, I think of more of the mental side of it than the physical side of it, because I think it's a very, um, I guess the sport is so neat in the way that it helps you to take your mind and make your body do things. But I guess some people get into it so they can fight. But my understanding is you get into it so you don't have to fight.
Right.
It's all a mental thing, right?
Yes.
All the research and all the times that I've tried to do something, that's kind of been. So how did that help you through this process, and that being part of who you were before you had the accident to who you are now? And are you continuing to practice your martial arts in the way, I don't know if it's the same way that you had before? Or kind of tell me about that part of your life.
Um, well, after my brain injury, I developed, which is another common symptom of a brain injury, is neurofatigue. And so I have fatigue every day. And neural fatigue is different from regular fatigue. Regular fatigue is usually resolved with a rest or nap. And neural fatigue is not. And it's also brought on by minimal tasks or activities. So it takes very little effort to end up being exhausted. And most people who have neural fatigue also never wake up refreshed. They always wake up tired. So it's like having a cellular battery, plugging it in, and it only charges to 50%, and that's all you get for the whole day. Um, and since it was all about getting me to work and so forth, I was never able to go back to my martial arts training. I did try, um, but I wasn't able to do that. Now that I've retired, I maybe down the road can get
Again.
back and train. Um, but my martial arts training allowed me that mindfulness that is really healthy for the brain and for healing. And the mindfulness teaches you to be in the moment and just pay attention to your breathing and your body and not having any adverse thoughts or anything. And when I lost that, I fortunately had an appointment with a counselor who recognized that I had lost this healthy component in my life. And so she recommended adult coloring because at the time I had horrific neck whiplash, I had dizziness. And so I was at risk of falling if I trained. And with the adult coloring, that taught me mindfulness when you're still, which I didn't have that skill. And from there, then I expanded to other things of practicing mindfulness and then being able to kind of just sit still outside and practice and be in the moment at that time. Or um, when you're in a conversation with a loved one, being in that moment, not worrying about this or putting together your grocery list in your brain, but really focusing on the conversation and being there. So, yes, that training. I still live like a martial artist. Like my word is law. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Um, I believe in understanding before explaining, that kind of thing. And people, yeah, a lot of people don't realize I practice it every day because I haven't punched anybody in the throat, so it's all good.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, so, yeah. So that's so cool. You mentioned adult coloring, and it just brought a thought to because I have so many kids and I have grandkids, and do they call it adult coloring so that you don't feel like you're a kid when you're doing it? I mean, is there like something that's way different, and you just say I'm a coloring like an adult, like it's because I love coloring, and I'm an adult, but I guess it should be adult coloring instead of just coloring. Or well, that's cool, and you discovered it, and it's fun. And are you way better than you were when you were 15 or 9?
Yeah, yeah, way better because of YouTube. I
There you
followed
go.
an adult, I felt there's creators on YouTube that adult color and they show you how to shade stuff and blend colors and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I've gotten a lot better. Now, I'm not fantastic, but I still enjoy it.
Who was that guy on TV that used to tell you to paint by numbers, and you'd have all those little things with the fro and like,
Oh, Ross,
oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, yeah, that kind of
love his
reminds me of that.
show.
But it's such a cool hobby. Are there any other hobbies that you have that? Any other hobbies that you have that that you do that keep you going?
Yes, I taught myself how to knit while I was recovering
Okay,
too.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah, so I do a lot of knitting. I make a lot of hats and scarves and kind of just pull over sweaters, that kind of thing.
got you. Do people take
Love
them
it.
with you or?
Yeah, I knit. Yeah, I knit anywhere and everywhere I can, and I've made gifts with it, and so yeah, it's been really good. And the thing is that when you use your hands, um, you're you're encouraging the growth of connections in your brain. It's called neuroplasticity,
Okay.
and neuroplasticity can help reconnect brain cells around dead cells in the brain or scar tissue. And so every time you use your hands, whether it's writing when you're journaling or you're knitting, you're encouraging that neuroplasticity in your brain. And other things that also help with it is assuring you get 7 to 9 hours sleep at night, that you exercise, spending time outside, being social with family and friends, and that could be spending time with them, or even just texting or writing emails. And then always learning something new will help with your brain health in the long run.
You mentioned that you slowed down a little bit. You know, do you feel like you're living your best life now, and you're still looking forward to the future? And what does that look like in your mind? I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he was talking about our, how we perceive our future. And we have a couple choices to perceive our future, right? Whether we perceive it as something that's going to be positive, or we perceive it as whatever, is going to happen, or these are the things that could happen. No, but no matter how we perceive it, we make it up, because we don't know what the future is going to be. So we make up every part of our future, no matter what it is. And so we might as well make up good stuff instead of bad stuff, because we're going to make it up anyways, right? So, as I'm asking you and what you think and what you're perceiving your future to be, what does that look like? What's that best life continue to look like? Because it just seems like you're so happy.
It looks like what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
And the when I was in healthcare, we were talking before how hard it was to work, because there's a lot of pressure to do more with less and less time with your patients. And I think that me being in the space of being a content creator, educating about brain injuries, is a way of like filling the gaps where people will fall through in healthcare. And I think a lot of like nurses and doctors could be in this space and really kind of um, fulfill that passion of helping people, that they feel they're losing because they're having to see patients every 10 to 20 minutes, all day long, in addition to managing in baskets full of prescription refills and messages and so forth. Um, and so I really am excited about this next chapter, because I get to tell anybody who's willing to listen all of the things I want to tell my patients, but couldn't do it in a 20-minute visit. And I get to share my knowledge beyond my exam room. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be here and to be doing this, and hopefully, prevent other people who have concussions and brain injuries to feel less alone and know that there is hope that you'll get better. Now, you may not be the person you were before your head injury or your stroke, or whatever happened, but it the brain wants to heal, and you can get better um, over time, and with encouraging that neuroplasticity, which supports the brain's health and growth. And neuro, these things that I'm also talking about are applicable to everyone, because a lot of people worry about developing dementia later in life. And
Mhm.
if you do these things to encourage the neuroplasticity and support the health of your brain, then your risk significantly diminishes of
Mhm.
developing such issues.
When I think about like faith, and I think about the things that I'm grounded to, that I believe help me through, and I believe all of us have in some kinds of substance of a spiritual world that we go through, and sometimes I even believe that the spiritual world is probably the real world, and it manifests itself in our lives that are physical lives. How has that been for you, and what have you leaned on or not leaned on, or been able to glean from a spiritual or faith-based world?
Um, it's I think with the along the journey, there were some things I was doing before my car accident. So one of the things I did is I stopped eating animal products. I followed a whole foods plant-based diet,
Hmm.
and I did it because of my health. My health was going downhill. I had high blood pressure, was overweight, had asthma, all kinds of terrible things. Started the diet and just eating mostly plants and non-processed foods. And over time, my perception of the world around me changed. I had a more sense of compassion for the planet and the animals that live on it, which is really mind-boggling to me to just kind of think about it. But, I used to look at a cow and see food, and now I see a creature. That we should be kind to. And that spilled over into my practice of really amplifying my empathy and understanding of the people around me. And that has over time expanded globally to more understand um, the trials and difficulties that others around the planet are going through, and to, in my own little way, create a positive wave to hopefully reach someone and help them in their need, even if it's just one person.
When I think, thank you for that. That is really cool. When I think about living in purpose and what that means to get up every morning and believe that you're doing something in purpose. I personally don't believe you can be in purpose and live in purpose if you're not serving others. Maybe you
Right.
can talk about that a little bit. What does it mean to serve others in your own way? And serving others to me doesn't mean you got to go down to the local food bank and serve the homeless and scoop. I mean, there's so many different ways to serve fellow mankind and to help their lives be better. What does that mean to you to live in purpose and to be able to serve?
Well, I don't know because I've always wanted to do it.
Hmm.
Even as a young kid, I volunteered to help in classrooms where the students had Down syndrome,
Hmm.
and I, I I was like only 10. I was like, I want to do that. I want to help in that classroom, help those people um, learn at the highest of their ability. And so I've always thought of serving others and of helping, like when I have been like the president of the Sacramento Nurse Practitioner Association here because I wanted to help my colleagues. I
Nice.
have mentored nurse practitioner students because I wanted to help people. I wanted to help them become nurse practitioners. Um, I when I was in martial arts, I taught a basic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class for women because I wanted to encourage women more into that sport. Because I think ground fighting is a very important skill for women because most of the time, if you're attacked, the man's going to try to take you to the ground. So I've always had that mindset. And of course, being a nurse my entire life,
Yeah, it is.
I'm always caring. I mean,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, I'm going to tell you how to take care of yourself because my husband says I'm a boss that way.
I love it. I love it.
But
Love it.
nurses are like that.
Mhm.
We're going to tell you you're not doing the right thing for yourself there. Um, but once healthcare started really stripping the resources away from me to be able to be the supportive person I wanted to be to serve my patients, then I started looking for something like this. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. And yeah, I've been enjoying it and I hope to continue doing it.
Yeah. Well, and you can't be a nurse and not care about people. My mom was a nurse.
Exactly.
It just those two things just don't go together because I
Yes.
don't think you can make it through a whole shift. I don't think you can make it through a whole year, without if you really don't like people and you don't care about people and care about their well-being, you can't do what you did. And so I
Yeah.
thank you for all the years that you did it because I know I watched my mom come home a lot and I know how hard It is. I'm at the hospital every week, doing my chaplain stuff, and I'm like, I have the best job in the hospital because I get to go and just talk to people, and I don't have to do the things, and clean up and all the things that it takes to keep somebody alive after they've had a stroke and be with them and all of those wonderful things. Oh my gosh, when I think about your family and and what you've been able to do for your family and how you're showing up now as your family, what do you think your kids would say mom is now compared to who mom was before? Or maybe you just want to tell me who mom is because you're the boss like that. But
I don't know. They're teenagers and young adults, so mom's
Mhm.
not cool right now,
Yeah,
you know.
no.
Dad's cool.
Mom's got rules. Mom's, yes. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
So yeah, it'll be interesting what they say when they get older. But
Yeah. Well, you're able to be there for them in a different
yes,
way, right? Which is
which is a big deal. Very big deal. Yeah, I've been able to be there with them whenever questions pop up that they need answered. I've been here to answer them. I took my oldest after she finished high school to Europe just to kind of expose her to different countries and people and stuff like that. So something I wouldn't have been able to do early in my recovery, and now I can. So yeah, just trying to be the best parent I can.
cool. What's your favorite chapter about your book?
Oh, um, well, I would say my favorite chapter is sound sensitivity.
Okay.
It's on sound sensitivity, and the reason why is it's because it's still something I deal with
Okay.
these days, and can totally empathize with it, and have a really good understanding of what works best to cope with it, and to continue to be able to go out into the world and live life with that disability. And so that's probably one of my favorite chapters, that and light sensitivity, because I hate fluorescent lights.
Okay. Gotcha. Yes, they are. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I hear you. What? So in that, maybe give us an example of like one, adaptation or something that you could do if you are, the light is. I love the floor because when I started my first doctorate, it was, I was trying to do the ergonomics of lighting and how bad our lighting is in warehouses and especially hospitals and stuff for the use of being able to see. Oh my gosh, and the strobing and how it can just, so what are some things that folks can do to reduce if they do have sensitivity to sound or to light that can help them through uh, this process of it just giving you headaches and everything else that it does.
Right. So if you've had it, concussion or a brain injury, and you notice that you have like sensitivity, that you aren't able to concentrate or focus while sitting under fluorescent lights, or you're leaving the day with headaches, you should get your eyes evaluated to make sure that they're functioning correctly. And then until then, what people can do is either ask for a job accommodation to either have the fluorescent lights turned off or replaced with incandescent lights. And if you replace it with, like incandescent lights, the light bulb, choose the gold lighting over the bright pure white is helpful. There are also covers that you can cover the fluorescent light with that will go outside the light, attached with tiny magnets that can be placed over the covers. There are cubicle light blocking office supplies that you can request. One of the things I did was I wore dark glasses on my really bad brain days, and I also had an umbrella that I clipped onto my desk that covered my head and my computer screen to block out any fluorescent lights. And those things can be really, really helpful because as you mentioned, fluorescent lights, um, whether you perceive it or not, your brain perceives it's flickering on and off, and it emits a light called blue light. And blue light is good if you're trying to wake up. But for some reason, after a brain injury, for myself and others, they're really sensitive to blue lights, and blue lights can also trigger headaches. So it's best to not, the best thing to do is to work next to an open window and getting natural light. But when you work in a building, that you don't usually have that choice. So those are some options to consider. And you can go to askjan.org. It's a human resource website that companies use to decide if a work accommodation is reasonable or not. And people can go onto that website. They can click their issue, whether it's migraine headaches, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, or a brain injury, and it will populate a bunch of accommodations for the various symptoms that you may have that you can ask your employer. And they're, they're reasonable. They're not outrageous.
Cool. And then on the noise side and cutting out noises, and I immediately think of, like you said, noise canceling headphones and that kind of stuff. When I thought about that, I thought, can I like cancel? Can I just use that? I need my noise canceling because you're talking too much, honey. You know?
Yeah. Well,
That's not.
yeah, well, when you have a brain injury, you can have a disruption in your hearing processes where the brain will give every single noise in your environment priority rather than blocking out background
Yeah.
noise.
Okay.
And that makes it difficult for you to hear and understand conversations. And it's
Mhm.
also overwhelming. But the other thing that happens is that because of the neurofatigue, your brain using up most of your energy just to heal itself, um, then it won't power your filters. Your brain will not power those filters, and everything will seem louder and more intense. Um, and so, using noise canceling technology, and when I say that, I mean active noise canceling technology, you can give your brain those filters that aren't working at that time. And if you get the kind that connects to an app on your smartphone, you can control the amount of noise canceling
Oh, really?
to the point, oh, yeah, to the point where you can block out, say you're on a plane with a friend, you can block out the jet noise just enough, but still hear your friend's voice better than if you didn't
Technology.
have that technology. Yes.
That's so
And
cool.
then if you don't need that much noise canceling, just a little bit maybe, and you don't want to put Bluetooth technology on your head. There are these things, they're called ear loops, EARLOOPS, and you can find them on the internet, and they fit inside your ear, and you can close and open them depending on how much noise you want to block. And those are really great too. I've used those too. Um, and then if you're really sensitive, like I was super sensitive when I was at work because I worked in an open space work environment. So wasn't in an office. I couldn't close the door. I had multiple conversations happening around me while I was trying to talk to my patients or
Mhm.
chart or write prescriptions. So I would wear noise canceling earbuds, and then I would put noise canceling headphones on top, and on a really bad day, I would pipe in calm music to further block because I just didn't, on really bad days or when I was tired, I just could not block out the conversations to be able to focus on my work safely. So, yeah, you can even layer the technology if you need it.
Thank you for that, and even the references to the gen.com that you can go and learn stuff about it. As we're kind of winding down on time, I want to make sure I give you the opportunity to whether to talk about your book or anything else that we didn't get to talk about. I got my fill of Kelly because I got to ask the questions and get everything that Brian wanted to know. But what would you like for all of our listeners and everybody else to know that we didn't get to talk about, and how to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can go to kellytuttle.org, ORG, and go to my website, and you'll find everything I'm working on. I'm working on an online program to help people return to work after a concussion. You can find out about my book, and I'm currently working on a journal, and I've written another ebook that expands the last few chapters of my book. But I brought a free gift for your
Oh, nice.
listeners, Brian.
Okay.
If if they go to my website, they can download a what I call a stressless medical cheat sheet. And I designed this form that you can fill out before you go to your doctors. And it is the questions your doctor's going to need to be able to make a diagnosis and develop a plan of care for you. And this way, you can, in a concise manner, give your doctor the things that they're going to need to take care of you. And it has space for any questions you want to ask, medication refills. You can write down what your doctor recommends, a space to write down your follow up appointment, because usually you should have a follow up appointment after seeing your doctor for an issue. And so that's available if you go to my website, and it looks like this.
Okay.
Um,
Stress.
yeah, stressless medical worksheet. And yeah, I recommend you go and check it out.
Gotcha. And what's the name of your book?
After the crash, how to keep your job, stay in school, and live life after a brain injury. Oop, let's go this way.
There it is. Nice, beautiful color, and got a picture of a brain on it. You can't
Yeah, I love the
miss it when
colors.
you jump on the Amazon to get it. Oh wow! Well, Kelly, thank you so much for being on the show today and spending the time with us. The book is After the Crash. I encourage you to take the opportunity to go to her site, get the stressless worksheet, medical worksheet that you can take to your doctor, even if it's just you writing down so you understand stuff better for yourself and you never even take it to your doctor. I think it's worth going on there. Check her out. You can tell if success leaves clues. Kelly's being very successful in what she's doing right now and being able to help others and to help you. And especially if you're a person who's had traumatic brain injury, as I used to coach football and, other athletics, that, concussions were a big part of what we did with adolescence, and now that is now piped over into adulthood, and just the things that can happen to you, and so many resources that she is told us about today. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, I told you it's going to be a good show, but to be able to watch it again, to pause it, to write down some of the things and techniques that she was able to use to get herself where she's at. Because she is living in purpose, and her purpose is to help folks like us that are willing to take advantage of it. And sometimes we think we don't need it. We try to believe that we're not, we don't need to go to the doctor. We don't need to do those techniques that she was willing to do and become successful at it. So, what an amazing show! What an amazing time that you spent with us. I thank you again. Maybe we can get back in a year or so and check on you and to see how you're doing and what the third or fourth book is that you've written, that you've, now, this best-selling author, and I'm putting that out there that I know is something that you have a passion for, of helping others, and if that's the way you get to communicate with the masses, we appreciate you. And so, for those of you, like I said, go ahead and subscribe, notification button, all the YouTube things that we do in order to make the show go on. Kelly's just been one of several guests that you can get on and see, and I'm going to keep doing this because I'm living in purpose and I'm enjoying it and can't wait to do more of it. And so thank you guys again. I believe, don't forget that you are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And you have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day. And we'll look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate being able to talk to your listeners.